To understand the RAM market, we first have to talk about the big three. In the world of desktop memory, there is a massive difference between a brand and a manufacturer. When you buy a stick of RAM, you are looking at a PCB printed circuit board covered by a heat spreader. But the little black rectangles soldered onto that board, the DRAM chips, are the real stars of the show. Almost every single stick of DDR4 or DDR5 RAM on the planet relies on silicon produced by either SK, Hynix, Samsung, or Micron technology. These are the only companies with the multi-billion-dollar fabrication plants, fabs, capable of printing silicon at this level of precision. Think of it like the automotive industry. A boutique car company might design a beautiful chassis, a leather interior, and a high-tech dashboard, but they might be sourcing the actual engine from a giant like Ford or Mercedes. In the RAM world, brands like Corsair or G.Skill are the boutique designers. They buy the engines, the DRAM chips from the big three. The magic, however, happens in what we call binning. Not all silicon is created equal. When a wafer of chips is produced, some chips can handle high voltages and tight timings, while others are just okay. The brands we know and love are essentially professional shoppers and tuners. They buy these chips, test them to see how fast they can go, and then decide which ones get put into a value stick and which ones get put into a godlike overclocking stick. This is why the brand matters. You aren't just buying the chip. You're buying the brand's ability to pick the best chips, keep them cool, and guarantee they will work with your motherboard. Let's start with a name everyone knows, Kingston. If the RAM market were a neighborhood, Kingston would be the neighbor who has lived there for 40 years, has a perfectly manicured lawn, and drives a car that never breaks down. Kingston is one of the world's largest independent memory distributors. They don't have their own silicon fabs, so they dance between Hynix, Samsung, and Micron, sourcing whatever is best at the moment. Kingston's philosophy is compatibility first. Their Fury Beast and Fury Renegade lines are staples in the industry. Why? Because Kingston spends an absurd amount of money on validation. When you plug a Kingston stick into a motherboard, it works. They aren't always chasing the world record for the fastest speed, but they are chasing the world record for the fewest blue screens of death. However, because they source from different suppliers, you might buy a kit today that has Hynix chips and buy the same kit 6 months later that has Micron chips. For the average user, this doesn't matter. But for the hardcore overclocker, it can be a headache. If you're a professional who needs their computer to turn on every single morning without fail, Kingston is your set it and forget it solution. They are the Toyota of RAM. Reliable, ubiquitous, and built to last. Now, let's talk about Crucial. Crucial is unique because it is the consumer brand of Micron. This is what I call farm-to-table tech. When you buy Crucial RAM, you are buying directly from the people who made the silicon. There is no middleman. Because of this, Crucial has a reputation for incredible consistency. You don't have to wonder who made the chips inside. It's always Micron. This makes them the darlings of the workstation and server world. If you're building a machine for video editing, 3D rendering, or running a small home server, Crucial's Pro Series is often the gold standard. The downside, Crucial tends to be very conservative. They are like a chef who refuses to oversalt the food. They won't give you the most aggressive speeds or the flashiest RGB because they prioritize the long-term health of the silicon. However, there is a bittersweet note here. Micron has signaled a phase-out of the Crucial consumer brand by 2026. While their support and warranties remain rock solid, it marks the end of an era for the only true manufacturer direct consumer brand in the space. If you've ever seen a PC that looks like a neon disco, chances are it has Corsair memory in it. Corsair is a master of the ecosystem. They realized long ago that people don't just want fast RAM, they want their RAM to match their fans, their keyboard, and their liquid cooler. Their Vengeance and Dominator series are legendary. Corsair's strength isn't just in the RAM itself, but in the iQ software. This software allows you to synchronize the lighting of your memory with everything else in your room. For builders who view their PC as a piece of art, Corsair is the go-to. But there's a catch. Because Corsair is so large, they often switch chip suppliers mid-production. You might see a version 4.31 or version 5.49 on the label. This represents a change in the internal silicon. This is why we always warn, never mix two separate kits of Corsair RAM, even if they have the same name on the box. If the version numbers don't match, your computer might refuse to boot. Corsair is for the builder who wants a unified aesthetic and is willing to buy their full capacity upfront to ensure total harmony. Now let's look at the sleeper of the group, Patriot. If G.Skill is a Ferrari, Patriot is a tuned-up Honda Civic that can somehow beat that Ferrari in a drag race for half the price. Patriot's Viper series, specifically the Viper Extreme and Viper Venom, has become the secret weapon of the enthusiast community. Why? Because Patriot often uses very high-quality Hynix A-die chips, the current kings of DDR5 performance, but doesn't spend as much on fancy marketing or elaborate luxury packaging. They offer incredible price to performance. If you are a manual overclocker who likes to go into the BIOS and tweak voltages to squeeze out every last drop of frames per second, Patriot gives you the good stuff without the premium tax. The construction might feel a bit lighter, and the RGB might not be as smooth as Corsair's, but in terms of raw horsepower per dollar, Patriot is hard to beat. There is no conversation about RAM without G.Skill. For years, G.Skill has been the undisputed heavyweight champion for overclockers. Their Trident Z line is iconic. When you see a world record for memory speed, it's almost always achieved on a G.Skill kit. G.Skill's secret is their binning process. They take the absolute cream of the crop silicon from Hynix and Samsung and push it to the absolute limit. Their validation process is so rigorous that their XMP, extreme memory profile settings, are often much more aggressive than other brands. When you buy G.Skill, you're buying a factory-tuned race car, whether it's the Ripjaws for value or the Trident Z5 Royal for pure luxury, complete with crystalline light bars. G.Skill represents the pinnacle of what DDR5 can do. The only real downside is the price you are paying for that top 1% silicon and the height of the modules, which can sometimes bump into large CPU air coolers. Next, we have Team Group. They have carved out a fascinating niche by focusing on capacity and creativity. While everyone else was fighting over 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes kits, Team Group was among the first to push the non-binary capacities like 24 gigabytes, 48 gigabytes, and massive 96 gigabytes kits. Their T-Create series is a masterpiece of industrial design minimalist, no RGB, and built with thick heat spreaders to keep temperatures low during 1-2-hour video rendering sessions. They also offer the T-Force gaming line, which provides excellent value. If you are a video editor or a 3D artist who needs all the RAM without spending a fortune, Team Group is your best friend. They are the brand that realize not everyone wants a rainbow in their computer. Some people just want to get work done. For the users who think mainstream brands are too boring, there is V-Color. Based in Taiwan, they are the boutique specialists of the RAM world. They are best known for their Manta series, which includes something truly unique, OLED-equipped modules. Imagine having a tiny screen on your RAM stick that tells you the temperature or displays a custom logo. V-Color also popularized the dummy stick kit. This allows you to fill all 4 slots on your motherboard with glowing RGB sticks, but only 2 of them are actual memory. This gives you the full aesthetic look without the stability issues or the cost of buying 4 sticks of high-speed DDR5. It's a brilliant solution for showcase builds where the PC is meant to be a conversation piece. XPG is the gaming arm of Adata, another massive player in the storage and memory space. Because they have the backing of Adata's huge supply chain, XPG can offer high-performance DDR5 at prices that make the bigger brands nervous. The Lancer series is their flagship, and it's known for having very solid thermal performance. Interestingly, XPG is one of the most proactive brands when it comes to dual profile support. Many of their kits come with both Intel XMP and AMD Expo profiles preloaded. This is a huge win for users who might switch platforms in a few years and want to take their RAM with them. They are the all-rounders of the market, offering a bit of everything, speed, looks, and value at a very competitive price. Finally, we have PNY. You might know them for their professional NVIDIA Quadro graphics cards, and they bring that same workhorse energy to their RAM. PNY doesn't care about the RGB wars or the overclocking leaderboards. Their XLR 8 line is focused on stability and reliability. PNY is the brand you'll often find in pre-built gaming systems from major retailers because their failure rate is incredibly low. They use conservative, tried-and-true settings that ensure the computer will boot up the first time, every time. If you're building a PC for a younger sibling or a parent and you don't want to get a support call 3 months later because the RAM is acting up, PNY is a safe, smart, and affordable bet. So we've looked at the titans, the artisans, and the value warriors. How do you actually make the choice? If you want the absolute highest speed and you're willing to pay for it, look at G.Skill or Patriot. If you want a PC that looks like a synchronized light show, go with Corsair or V-Color. If you are a professional whose livelihood depends on the computer not crashing, stick with Crucial, Kingston, or Team Group. If you are on a budget but still want to play the latest games at high settings, XPG and PNY are your best allies. The real lesson here is that the RAM market is a beautiful example of how branding and engineering work together. Even though the ingredients, the silicon, come from just 3 companies, the chefs, the brands, create vastly different meals. Before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of questions to think about. When you built your first PC, or if you're planning one now, what was the one feature that made you choose your RAM? Was it the price, the speed, or did you just really like the way the lights looked? And knowing now that almost all RAM comes from just 3 companies, does it change how you feel about brand loyalty? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your silicon stories. If you found this deep dive helpful and you want to master the world of tech with me, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join our community of builders and thinkers.